Hi guys. My name is Afeez Kay, and today I have Hsiang on the call. Is that how I pronounce it? How do
It's
I pronounce
actually
it?
it's just Sean. This is the thing
Sure.
that trips everyone over. It's just Sean. It's a lot easier than it looks.
All
But I
right
do
then.
enjoy everyone kind of like stare at my name and freak out and try to come up with, like really unnatural way of making their voice sound. So
All right. You know
it's
what? That makes life so much easier. So from now on, guys, it's pronounced Sean.
surprising.
Surprisingly easy, right? So we've been talking for quite some time, as you know, and we've been meaning to have a conversation. But also, initially, I reached out to you. I think I had a podcast with Tushon,
Hmm.
and I immediately thought about you, and I thought it would be great to have you on board as well. But that was more of a podcast in the sense of just have two people just talking. But I wanted to have a more condensed EUC specific podcast now. So that's why I thought you'd be the first, best, and first guest to actually come on the show. And I will be asking you questions about Electric Unicycle. Obviously, that's what we have in common. But also to talk about how you started and where we are right now and the future. So, without further ado, can I start asking the question?
Sure, sure.
All right. So first off, just can you just give us a little bit of an introduction into yourself, but also how you got into the EUC industry, a bit of a genesis about your journey, please.
So so I think I mentioned in my videos before also. I just always, I rollerbladed for the longest time, for years, and as a matter of fact, like to the point where I think I like, I was invited to competition and so on. So I really always loved that.
Mhm.
And I snowboarded, I ride my bike all over the place. So I always like things that involve like, transport and getting
Yeah.
to different places.
Yeah.
And then especially in New York, it's both practical and a lot of fun to be able to
Sure.
get around.
Sure.
So, and then on top of it, I love technology. I'm like a huge, I'm really into photography
Yeah.
and camera and just gadgets in general.
Mm.
So the EUC is actually like a combination of those. As a matter of fact, the very first time I ever heard about EUC was like someone actually, in a like
Mm.
videography like
Yeah.
forum where they talk about using it as some kind of stabilizer. And then I saw like someone writing it, and then
Yeah.
I remember distinctly watching John's video, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
You know what?
It's like
Tushona
immediately.
that guy has single-handedly started the EUC industry, at least brought it to the to the market, to the audience. Um, and as you probably know by now, he's my inspiration for getting to EUC. But yeah, carry on. Sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
That's it's just a very different like take because before the video, like before like I found Tishan's video, like it was like I saw videos of like like the manufacturers or like
Yeah.
Chinese people riding
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
I also saw Marty, and I also saw like I mean all those videos were cool, but
Mm.
they're like out in out in the suburbs, people riding around,
Ah, I gotcha.
not really fast, and like Tishan's was like a completely different feel. It was like urban, it was like just like,
Fun.
there's this coolness to it that
Oh,
he like put a really cool track to it.
yeah,
Like
he
after
does.
watching, I'm like, oh, I need to get this. Like
Yeah,
never,
and his famous slow motion with that stupid sound he has, like, doo, like every time. I'm like, okay, how many times is Tushan gonna slow mo and go doo? I'm like,
right. But
oh,
so like everything about it was just
it
like
was awesome.
it puts it in a different light, and like
Yeah,
right from there, like I knew I was gonna get into this, and
yeah.
I just researching, and I have a obsessive personality where when I get into something, I get like really into it. Like I
Mm,
just would obsess over it and
Mm.
spend every waking hour thinking about it. So I
Yeah.
just that's how I got in.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. I mean, if I can just share like how I got in, it's essentially very similar to you as well. So I saw Tushon um, testing out the Tesla, Gotway Tesla, and at that time, I was looking to get a skateboard because I mean, I had a car, an electric car actually, but I hardly ever drive my car. It was just on my driveway, so I just thought, just wasting my money, right? So I
Hmm.
wanted to get something fun to get around. I thought about getting an electric bike, and then I thought about a scooter. Then I went to electric skateboard. Then I saw Tushon's video and just thought, this is crazy. I need to get me one of this. And then
All
that
right.
was it. And I was just hooked. And then I went to Japan and then South Korea afterwards, and I was exchanging messages with him. And he said, "Listen, the best way to get started in this, if you want to shoot videos." I was, "Oh, I like your video. I want to shoot videos like yours." I said, "Just bring out your phone or whatever you have with you, and just shoot. That's the only way. You don't need to get any expensive equipment." And then I got my first EUC, which was the 9-bot E plus. And then I immediately outgrew that in about 2 weeks because I 2 weeks. So I tried to race a Kingsong 18S. And then I
Uh-huh.
just face planted because I leaned too hard too quickly. And then since then, I've been obsessed with power because I know power is safety. The more power you
Uh-huh.
have, the less likely of you cutting out. So hence why you always hear me say power, power, power. so so
All
that's
right.
me. That's me.
Uh-huh.
But obviously you ride a Gotway Monster right now, which is the most badass electric unicycle you can. Well, there's another one coming. There's another one coming. But yeah, so you ride a Monster, don't you? Gotway Monster. I mean, why? How,
Well,
how did you go from a
I'm
Z10?
still splitting my time between people ask me because, for the longest time, my vlog was called like the Z10 vlog, and I still ride the Z10 a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like people see me riding the Monster more because it is really super. I mean, this thing is like rock solid. Like
Mm,
riding the Monster is like no other wheel because
mm,
it has the stability and power, that no other wheel can ever match because it has
mm,
such a large diameter wheel.
mm, mm,
So usually when I shoot videos, most of the time I ride that, and also for a longer trip I ride that. But I
mm,
still actually have more miles on the Z10
mm.
than the Monster, and it's
Yeah.
I still enjoy riding it. It's two different, it's two completely different things. So
How would you describe if I was to just let me put you on the spot for a little bit, like quick pros and cons of both wheels. Just give me three pros, three cons of both wheels, Z10 and the Monster,
well, the
from your
Z10
perspective.
it's a really hard, it's hard to describe. First of all, I could list a bunch of things.
Mm,
It is there are problems, sure, I get that, and I personally experienced one
mm,
where I had to send it in for repair. But overall, the Z10 is more of a cohesive product. I mean, the thing has like official UL rating, which is an
yeah.
agency that tested, to make sure that this thing's not going to burst into flame. Not that
Yeah.
I'm saying the other wheel will, just that
Mm,
the company actually spend the effort and the money to make this into a more cohesive product. So when I bought it, it felt more like a thing that you will walk into a store and buy. Versus, when I got the Monster, people are like, "Oh, you got to open it up and make sure that screws are tight." And I'm like, "What do you mean? I just spent like almost $3,000 on this wheel." But they're like, "But yeah, you can't trust Godway." I'm like, "So why are you buying it? Because it's really good wheel." But why is the screw? It's part of it. So
yeah.
the Ninebot, got here in a nice box, nicely packaged. It just felt like a more complete product. And also it just has a very unique ride feel. It doesn't feel like anything else on the market. It's its own thing, and people hate it and love it for the same reason. And also it's, again, because I feel like it's a more cohesive product, it's more convenient. Like I dropped it many times. It's much more durable. The trolley isn't, as good as the Kingsong, but it's convenient. I use it all the time. Now going to the Monster is the Monster, and
It is.
like it's
It is.
the selling point. It's gigantic 22-inch wheel. The stability that you get on that thing is like nothing else. Riding the Monster is almost like riding like a motorcycle or a scooter. You get that level of stability where, people like watch us ride in traffic here in New York. They're like, oh, you're completely crazy. And, yes, it's risky, but on the Monster, I feel like comfortable. It's one of the few wheels where if I in the road with other car, I feel comfortable because I have the speed, I have the acceleration, and I have the stability. Because the thing is that whenever something goes wrong, when you have a crash, it's always a combination of factors. It's, someone not doing something that you're not predicting, or you hit a pothole and then like something else. So it's like a combination of two things. So by having this big stable wheel, you're kind of taking the bad surface, out of that equation. So it's overall, I think it's a safer wheel because you have one less thing to worry about. Like versus, if I was riding my Z10, for example, if I was like right behind a car and I didn't see a pothole all of a sudden showing up, and then now the guy smashed on his brake. Now I have two things, and I'm just like, that's perfect recipe for you to have a crash because you have two things that you deal with at the same time. So
yeah, I guess so. And with me, power to me means safety. It doesn't mean speed. Everybody always equate, wow, the latest Gotway is going to be fast, and I don't need fast. So I'm like, no, speed is a consequence of more power, but that power can keep you steady, can keep you level. If you accidentally go over a bump or something or a pothole, it will keep you steady. The more power you have, right, and cut out. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, and it's great hearing you say that. Someone that ride, the Monster in arguably one of the most challenging environment to ride one of these things, which is New York. And for you to then tell me that the Monster is probably the safest wheel, I think kind of confirms what I've always suspected all along. Yeah. But then,
it has the stability and also, like you said, has the power. Like people look at the max speed, they're like, oh, this is how fast this wheel can go. But no, but that's also how much of a margin of safety you have.
Absolutely.
I mean, if this wheel is capable of 45 miles an hour and you're doing 30, that means if something happens, if a guy veer into your lane or if something happened where you need to speed up in order to get yourself away from the trouble, that means you have, again, a margin of safety. You can go up to 40 and you still have, power left. Versus like a wheel that's maxed out at 31, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you have much less options. You just don't have as much flexibilities.
Good. Which now leads me to my second question. Now, obviously, I know that, based on what you just said, you think the Monster is one of, if not the best or the safest wheel on the market right now because of the huge diameter and the wheel diameter and how that's able to go over rough surfaces. It almost, cushions your ride. We currently have, or still to have, or quite soon, the Kingsong S18 and the Inmotion V11. Now, these two are the first production suspension wheels that have come. So my question to you is, well, two questions regarding this. The main question is, do you think now having the S18 and V11, it now kind of negates the Monster in terms of makes the Monster probably a little bit not as, I wouldn't say relevant as it once was, because one of the reasons why you get is because obviously you can go over bumps without actually noticing it. That's one. Second question, or second sub question to this question is, which one do you like or would you buy and why? So one, has it made the Monster useless? And two, which one will you buy and why? And remember what I told you before you go on the show. This is not a show to please the sponsors. My view was like, just say as it is. Be truthful. Essentially, which one is rubbish?
I like how you set this up, right to the end of the pier, so that I have to piss, at least 2 out of the 3 manufacturers.
Hey, that's the way it is. So tell me. So
well, I mean, it's not. It's very hard for you to say like, good versus bad because you always get some and you always lose some, right? The ability to absorb and to cushion you against hitting a pothole or what have you is only part of the formula. I mean, the main reason why I think the Monster is has the stability it does is because the size of the wheel and all that weight is rotating. And then there's this centrifugal. I don't know. It's
centrifugal.
Centrifugal. It's more like gyroscopic. It's like a gyroscope.
Yeah, it's like the Z10. The reason why the Z10 is so rock steady sometimes is because of the way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like it's spinning up. It's like a motorcycle. Like if you ride a motorcycle, like at speed, like the thing, like you can't push it because it wants to stay in that single rotation. And that's the thing that gives the Monster the most amount of stability, because you have this giant heavy wheel and it's rotating at a tremendous speed. And once you get up to that, RPN, it's hard for you to kind of shift it out of its axis of rotation. So like it'll always have that advantage regardless of suspension. Now, on the other end, I mean, with smaller wheels, the suspension is important, because one of the main thing that so there are two things that cause people to fall, like at least here in New York. One is people reckless. They drive the wheel to its max and then cut out. But those are rare because, first of all, it's crazy people here in New York. Not everyone does it. But still, those are really isolated situations, because when you're near the peak power output of your wheel, like most of the time, you're not doing it unintentionally. You're testing the limit of the wheel, and people are, they know they're near it. So it happens, I think, is rare, because that your wheel is going to take a beating. You're going to take a beating. It's a risk. And people, again, like, it's not like a thing that people do regularly. And the other reason that caused a lot of fall is people hitting bad road surfaces. Like, you hit a big pothole, you didn't see it coming, and then you just fall. Like, I rarely see people fall on a perfectly smooth road. It's always like they hit something and then it's unexpected, they lose control. So this is what the suspension would help you with, because the suspension would cushion that and take some of the, the sting out of it, because usually what happens is that you hit a pothole and then it shifts your feet and then you lose control. This would help you against that. And then on top of it, I also think, the theory for the suspension is that it's this thing that's, again, pushing the wheel into the ground, and it's giving you better traction. That's why, like I said, like motocross, bike suspension, because it's improving your traction on the ground.
Yes.
So that also helps as well. Now, more specifically for the the question of the S10 versus the V11,
I guess it's about who has implemented the suspension system best.
Right. So I talked about this in the last video, and it's, first of all, I'm going to say that without having the wheel, it's impossible to know.
Yeah.
Because we have to ride it to really know what is going on. But again, theoretically, based on the way they're designed, Kingsong went with a more effective suspension design.
Okay.
At a cost. Nothing comes for free. It is more effective because more of the wheel is on the sprung side. It's protected. So, battery and the control board, all of that are above the spring, which means that it's cushioned like you are. So first of all, not having a battery in a box that's being shaken like
has been shaken. Yeah, I gotcha.
Is good for the component. And second of all, what you want the wheel to do is to move as much as possible to conform to the surface of the road without moving the body of the wheel itself. So the less weight you have on this wheel, the better it is. So the Kingsong design only have the motor being part of the wheel that's moving. The rest of it is not moving. Versus Inmotion, they went with a design where, it's like the front suspension on a mountain bike, where the suspension is moving by itself. On the suspension, but the rest of the wheel is all together moving. So it's a much heavier. Most of the component is on the unsprung side, moving up and down like a traditional unsuspended wheel.
Yeah.
Now, the advantage of that is that, it doesn't work as well because you have more weight moving, but everything is in one single bit. You know, like it's all the motor, the battery, everything, the control board, it's all inside of this wheel, I think, not having seen it in person. So there's less complexity to the overall system, which makes it easier to build this wheel and easier to make sure that the wheel is sealed, it's waterproof, and it's not going to, you know, like things are not going to hit each other. Like the problem with the Kingsong design is that now you don't have a single unit. Instead, you have all this component, and they're all moving against each other inside of the casing. And people say, "Oh, why is the casing so big, like so open?" It's because of that. Because now you have things that's like jutting up in different directions.
Yeah.
You know, like if there's a twist and then the thing moves, it's going to hit, like it's going to bust itself up.
However, from the looks point of view and from the implementation point of view, that S18 just looks badass. Come on, you have to say it. I'm sorry, it does look awesome. I watch all the videos from Kuji, anything I can get my hands on. I'm always watching it and looking at how the suspension actually pops out as well. It kind of does a little pop out motion if you actually compress it too much. And you know, imagine having that wheel. Wait, let's. I like it in red, like kind of popping candy red with you know gold suspension colored. I don't know how you want to maybe color the suspension all gold, so it looks a little bit like a you know, like one of those you know Bugatti Veyron looking thing. It's just beautiful, right? And I think Kingsong surprised me. Sorry to jump in, but I just have to kind of, you know, before I move on to the next question, but Kingsong really surprised me because you would never have thought Kingsong would produce such a good looking wheel. I'm sorry, but a lot of their old wheels are just round with lights on them and that's it. But they've really stepped up with this, and congratulations for them for having such faith in just doing it and not just thinking about just making quick buck and doing the same that everybody does. So I have to answer the question, which one would you buy, Sean?
Well, I'm with you in that, like, I want to wait and see what's going on because, again, like, you know, I'm totally with you. The S18 is a beautiful wheel. You know, having that bit, you know, the suspension being visible and being modular. I like, you know, for some reason, now I'm poor and I can never afford these things, but I love mechanical watches because you know they just fascinate me, especially the ones that has like you know, the tourbillon, I think it's called, exposed, and you get to see that part.
Oh yeah, and you can say it kind of move back and forth. Yeah, exactly. Does that, yeah.
And I remember years ago, and I was amazed. I forgot. I think Philip Patak, is it? Again, I wouldn't know because I could never afford one, but they made one of these that's three-dimensional. It looks like a sphere, so it's rotating.
So it goes this way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's amazingly beautiful like thing. And then of course they have some Swiss guy spent years developing it and building it. And the watch itself is like $800,000, some ridiculous amount, but literally $800,000 just so you can see this thing rotating and swinging and this mechanism moving. And that is what the S18 like piece looked like to me. It's a beautiful thing.
It is. It is.
But of course, mechanical watch is also well known for being not very accurate. so
why?
The conundrum, like,
don't jinx it.
Like, yeah, like when I saw that S18 and like what went through my mind is that this is like Gen 2. I wasn't expecting to see this until after we have like a whole generation of suspension design. And the reason for that is that you're dealing with two different innovations. One is, first of all, adding suspension to a wheel. Two is making the next leap and making it an open case design where now all the components are separately sealed and separately enclosed. That's two completely revolutionary things to do with a wheel. So they make both leap in one product in one generation, and it's a really, really crazy, risky thing to do. And then they came out with this beautiful design, which I am super excited about. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is great. And if this wheel comes out, people ride it without any issue. All it needs to do is to work as advertised. Without any, this would be the best thing ever. But that's the question. Will it work without any issues?
Exactly.
Basically, what they did is very simple. And the two design wasn't completely brand new. And it's very simple. One is from the front end of a mountain bike. One is from the rear end. And they, the Kingsong is the rear end suspension system that you see on a mountain bike. And the Inmotion is what they do with the front end, with a fork, two parallel shock that's connected to the wheel. So the mechanism and the theory is there. But my suspicion, and if you ask me to speculate, I would say that, they are both aware of the possibility, but they also knew what the risk was involved. Like Inmotion simply looked at it and said, for us to make both of these leap are incredibly risky. We want to first make sure that suspension is even workable and that people want it.
Yeah.
So they concentrated on that problem, and they created a product that was all about the suspension and the open case design, the complexity, all of that. They're like, we'll worry about that later, maybe Gen 2. And then Kingsong, they saw this and they choose to go the riskier route. They said, this works better. We know this works better, so why don't we just go straight there and go with that? So again, it's absolutely fascinating because you see two completely different approach on this one problem, which I'm really excited about, because now we can really we can skip all the stuff in the middle and just get straight to, because if Kingsong is able to produce this wheel and have it and sell it without having any major rollout issue, and there's going to be some rollout issues. I know there will. It's just that's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is, right? Yeah.
Nothing major, as long as it's not a major structural fall that would make the wheel, like if certain component, it's like if part of that shock structure is it fails after 1,000 miles, then like you can't really fix that because that's part of the structure of the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, Kuji has dropped that wheel several times, and knowing the way Kuji rides, and I've actually reading with him, he doesn't take any mercy when he rides his wheels. And if you look at his off-road video as well, he's dropped it, and he's still riding it, and well, obviously there is dropping, there's a stress testing, but there's also looking at how the wheel actually performs after a period of time. Maybe, riding the wheel in cold weather might bring something different, issues that we might not see during hot weather. Maybe going from a hot weather to a cold weather might bring about some defects that might not have been caught during the initial QA. And this is me just putting on my, my software quality assurance hat on right here. I think, the development of EUC, especially what Gotway has done. Gotway they bring out wheels one every 6 months now on average, and everybody else just can't keep up with them. I mean, the good thing about Gotway is they had a really good platform, which they've taken initially from the Tesla and then from the M Supers, and all I've just done is just taken exactly the same thing and just done some iteration every 6 months. Now, what I'm seeing from Inmotion and Kingsong is they're building a brand new platform almost every year, and that is what happened with the 16X, where the 16X is a great wheel, but that didn't come out. It didn't start off to a good start. It didn't start properly, right? You had firmware issues. You have some, dust was getting inside, but it's still a brilliant wheel. And now they've created the S18, as you said. I hope we don't have the same issue as well with the S18, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But then I guess this then brings me to my next question to you is, what do you see as the future of electric unicycle? Where do you think we are heading now? We started off with the very simple, design from Gotway and Kingsong. Then we, move it up, a notch with power, and speed and range. Now we're going to suspension. And where do you see EUC now going in the next year or two? Because, in terms of development, they are literally, getting better almost every year, like in terms of their capability. So, in your view, what do you think is the next best thing now that's going to come to the EUC industry? Or at least, what do you think, or what would you like to see, rather?
I mean, EUC is a really bizarro thing. It just is, because I mean, the unique thing about an electric unicycle is that it's an invention that that could, like, it's a product that only exists because of the strange environment the world is in, and I don't mean the terrible virus thing going on right now, but it's because of the rise of manufacturing in China and how they want to push their technology from just making someone else's design to making their own design. Like, it's this transition that they're trying to go through. And the reason why I say that is important is because the actual patent associated with electric unicycle is solidly locked down here in the US. So in the US, in the Europe, like, a company can't just say, okay, I'm going to, like, if Gawei, started in the US, they could have never done what they were doing, like, in China, because they would be under, lawsuit and all these other things.
Right.
So it only happened because of that. And the speed of the development is also because of that, because, here in the US, every single little piece of things would have patent associated with it. And then they would be like, oh, no, you can't put a suspension on this wheel because Shimano owns the patent to this suspension system that you're going with.
Yeah.
So it's because of that, they're kind of like are able to develop it, without any intervention. But the downside to that is, of course, that because they're in China, they don't have as direct of a connection with their customer base, which is mostly in the US, mostly in the EU. Like, there's actually, I don't think, as big of a following in China itself because of the cost of the wheel. So for now, we're still kind of in this hobbyist mindset where it's a very, very tiny group of people who are really, really into, like, electric unicycle. And the result of that is that we push the performance. Everyone wants a faster wheel. Everyone wants a more capable wheel, because we're paying like $2,000-$3,000. We want the top of the line, most powerful things possible. But in order for the market to really grow, like, I mean, yes, the hobbyist is going to grow as a base. We'll always get a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, but it will never kind of get to a mass consumer level. It just won't. Like, for the most part, it's going to be niche, and nobody's going to know about it because there is no marketing behind it. Like with company like GoPro, like, for instance, or even like Red Bull. Think of all the things that they invest in. Like, what does an energy drink have anything to do with, like, soapbox car racing? Like,
I know Formula One. There's a Red Bull team in Formula One that spends easily $300 million a year just to keep it afloat.
So it's just like but they do that to get the name out there, so that there's, it's that imagery. It goes back to the whole, like, the videos that Hsiang make, where it's not just the product and what it can do, but what it means, like what, the implied lifestyle. Like, if someone said, okay, this thing is just nothing but, like, the nerds do it, then like the general public aren't just going to be as receptive, like, only because they're like, oh, this is for the nerds, versus something that is perceived as being cool. Like, a good transition would be like skateboarding. Skateboarding used to be seen as this outlaw thing that only kids on the street, who's not properly, homeschool or whatever would do it. But now it's turning to a lifestyle where, like, I see people carrying around like a skateboard that look like it's barely used because it's cool. It's cool. Like, and that's the thing. And the manufacturer has to, hopefully, in time, and I see some positive, kind of movement, like Kingsong and also Inmotion, what they did for marketing their latest wheel are showing that they have a
maturity.
more aware.
Marketing
They
maturity.
knew that, right. And like, the CEO of Inmotion did his presentation in English. I was very impressed by that.
I am impressed.
It shows an acknowledgement that people who's buying his wheel aren't Chinese people, that it's mostly English speaking people and Russian. So it's good. But for them to take it to the next level, is a whole, it's ad spending, and it requires a different product that right now still doesn't exist. Like what we really need, like, the Inmotion, for instance, said one of their most popular product is the V8 because it's a $1,000 wheel. It's a sub-$1,000 wheel. It's not expensive, but it performed really well. I mean, when I rode the VAF, that thing is faster than a bicycle.
The VAF, the latest release from Inmotion, it carries a 1,000-watt motor, has a 22 miles range, and a top-end speed of 21.7 miles per hour, which makes it one of the fastest mid-range electric unicycle.
Super convenient. It's like everything that like 90% of the population would want out of a mode of transportation.
Yeah, right.
But, like something like if they can take that, like something in that price range, make it more compelling. And that means, a little bit more performance, not even that much, but make it a lot more usable, a lot more attractive. Like it's like what, it's like what the iPod did. And people don't remember this because they're probably much younger. It's what the iPod did to the MP3 player. MP3 player were like, I was using that before, and and it was a nerdy thing, and it's like, oh, I can put all this music onto this little stick and walk around with it, and you're still listening to your stupid CDs. And meanwhile, I downloaded all this thing for free online.
Napster.
Right. And like what Apple realized was that this was a great technology. We just need to make it easy and cool. And that's all they did. And that's what they built their $1 trillion company on, that it needs to be easy and cool, just those two. And right now, the EUC is neither one of those. It's not easy and it's not cool. Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. I think the not easy part will probably always be there. That's part and parcel of what an EUC is about. Is a one-wheel device that you need to trust it so that you can lean forward and lean backwards. However, are you saying, I think for me, to answer that question, what I see the future of EUC and the industry being is definitely aligned to your answer, which is they need to make it cool. They need to put some more money in marketing. And that is where people like yourself, people like Kuji, Tushawn, Adam from Wrongway, you got Mickey from EVX as well. This is where I think that there needs to be a lot more connection with the YouTube community. If you look at Tesla, we say about marketing. Tesla hardly ever, they don't do any marketing. They rely on their customer base to do all the marketing for them.
Yeah, but I mean, Elon is probably one of the most aware person. He knows what's going on, he knows how to and people are still arguing whether or not he's doing it with an intention or he's just naturally like that. But he has a personality that just generates controversies. He has he has a tendency to just be like, oh, that sounds really cool, let's just do it. But that sounds simple, but for you to be able to pull it off is what draw people to whatever your cause is. Because if someone say, oh, it'd be cool if we could put a rubber ducky on the moon, everyone laugh it off, but he's like, oh, that sounds like good, I'm gonna try to do it. And now all of a sudden people are like, what? I have to see this. What do you mean you're gonna actually do it? It's kind of along that way, so but again, that's a rare thing. It's most of the time it comes down to you have to invest resources in marketing of the thing. And going back to the easy part, and when I say easy, I don't mean making it easy easy physically to learn. Because snowboarding is hard. It will never be easy to learn snowboarding. It will always be hard, and you will always fall and hurt yourself. But it's easy to get into because there's a whole infrastructure. You can go to a mountain. There's classes that you can take, being taught by cute girls who snowboard. It's really cool. And there's a whole, again, there's rental that they let you rent a board, rent the whole, gear, everything you need. They have buses down here in New York that would take you up to a mountain, and then they would have a guide teach you how to do it. So the activity itself is still difficult, but it's easy for you to try it because there's an infrastructure around it. And
Yeah.
right now there is nothing. Like if I really want to get into EUC without like, how do I even try it? You can't. Like there is no way for you to try. The only thing you can do is go and hang out with a bunch of guys who ride it, and then maybe over time they're like, oh, can I try one? And they're like, because you don't know how to ride, you're gonna break up,
I know, and it costs
you know?
$2,000 or pounds, and I don't want you smashing my wheel.
Exactly. So it's like right now that barrier of entry is like literally you have to make a leap. You have to be like, that seems like a cool idea. I'm gonna just drop $1,000. And like that's a crazy thing, $1,000 even for an entry wheel. I mean, we know it's worth it. We know it's well worth it. But that's a huge leap for someone who has no idea and who can't even imagine what the benefit would be.
Yeah, yeah.